How's everybody? All right, you ready? Well, good afternoon. I'm Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, and I'm here with my associate, Joy Johnson, and Dr. Tiffany Crutcher Foundation. And we called this press conference today primarily to recognize the untimely, unbelievable loss of Hughes Van Ellis, which is, it's crazy to say someone at 102 years old that is untimely death, but that's who he was. We called him Uncle Red, and we already had today, or yesterday, we were scheduled to make our filings in the Supreme Court, and we'll talk about that. But we had no intention of really making a press conference about it. But I'm kind of at a loss for words, and you guys know that's really not normal, but this has really hit us really hard. With Uncle Red, he was just an amazing individual. He deserved justice. He deserved to see justice before he passed, and he wanted that. He was so passionate about this community, about Black Wall Street, Greenwood, and the community receiving justice. And he felt so honored to be on the forefront of fighting for it. At 102 years old, traveling all over the world. And for those of you who knew Uncle Red, I know many of the media that are here, you had a chance to actually visit with him and see that he was as sharp as any of us sitting here today. And it's just a huge loss for obviously his family, his beautiful daughters, Lee and Muriel, his sister, Mother Fletcher. Who's been his big brother, big sister for 102 years. Can you imagine that? And as all of you that interacted with them together, she was his big sister at all times. His nephew Ike and their entire family. So we're really thinking about them and contact with them daily on how we're going to support them through this tough time. But I mean, our community, we have from the nationwide leaders, we've heard from the White House, we've heard from all the national leaders like Reverend Al Sharpton, many others who really feeling this loss. last month that once we filed yesterday, that the defendants had 15 days to respond to the October 25th. And then we have, I think it's 10 days to file a reply by November 6th. We're going to file our reply as soon as possible. We're just going to ask the court, we're asking the court to make a decision as soon as possible. November 10th, Mother Randa will be 109 years old. And we're all day to day, but 109 years old. We're second by second. And we are, I think, rightfully concerned about Mother Fletcher losing her little brother. The impact that could have on her. So, time is of the essence. And all we're asking the Supreme Court to do is give us the opportunity to get back in the court. We have laid out in our brief, as you will see, this is not about the Supreme Court deciding if we're ultimately successful. This is not about deciding what remedies we receive. We're simply asking the court to apply the law equally to the survivors as everyone else in Oklahoma. As we lay out, since 1984, the Oklahoma law has stated that we did not have to provide specifics of our remedies, even though we did. But the court, Judge Wall, stated that she dismissed our case because we did not provide a proper remedy for the public nuisance that she, in her previous order, stated that she couldn't say we couldn't prove. And so what we're telling the court is, treat these survivors like every other litigant in the state of Oklahoma since 1984. That's almost 40 years. So don't treat them any different. And we believe if the court does that, if the court follows the actual law and their precedent, that we will be back for discovery, and then we have the opportunity to prove our case, which we believe we can, and then have an opportunity to ask the court for an abatement remedy to fix. Abatement means to fix the continuing harm of the massacre. And one thing that we did ask the court is a declaratory judgment, which is something that courts do all the time, been doing it for 100 years in Oklahoma. It's simply saying that yes, the massacre did happen and it did create a nuisance. That in and of itself is worthy of us going to trial. It will heal this community for the first time for the Tulsa County District Courts to recognize by law the massacre happened and it created a public nuisance. So with that, God, if you want to say anything, go ahead. With that, I'll answer any questions. Dion.
You spoke a little bit about Judge Wall's reversal, or from your perspective, reversing her own previous rulings. Can you go back into that to help people understand how we got here? Last year, the judge refused to dismiss the case, and then this year, she went back and dismissed it. Can you explain what happened between that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, how do we get here? Well, as you know, we filed this case right here in the Culture Center on September 1, 2020. That's over 3 years ago. We had our first hearing on September 28, 2021. So 2 years ago. Subsequent of our hearing, the Oklahoma Supreme Court decided the opioid case. And so we had a new round of briefing based upon what the Oklahoma Supreme Court had stated. Specifically, they stated to have a public nuisance, you had to show that a crime had been committed and that it had inhibited or destroyed property or caused a public nuisance. And so we had an additional hearing on May 2nd, 2022, which is over a year ago. And at that hearing, which is several hours, and I would note that the survivors were there, including Uncle Red, the whole time. Judge Wall ruled from the bench and stated that our case could move forward in some form of capacity, and that she would provide a written order to the specifics of how we were moving forward. That was May 2nd, 2022. It took 3 months to get the order on August 3rd, 2022. So that's 90 days right there that we lost. And in that order, she specifically said that she could not find that it was impossible for us to prove that a public nuisance has occurred because of the massacre. She ordered us to file a new petition, which we did, and then the defendants filed new rounds of motion to dismiss. So from August 3rd all the way into May 2023, we're just waiting basically almost 7 months for a decision. Can we move this case forward? We had a hearing on May 10th, 2023, which was Mother Fletcher's 109th birthday. She spent her 109th birthday in court. And Judge Wall at that time said she was going to issue a ruling very soon. It took almost 2 months from that date to get a ruling on July 7th, 2023, where she decided that she would dismiss our case with prejudice. And then from there, we filed our case, our appeal with the Oklahoma Supreme Court on August 4th. The Oklahoma Supreme Court accepted our case on August 7th, which was amazing. And they did it very quickly, and we're very appreciative of that. And that's where we are now. They ordered additional briefing, which was due yesterday, which we have filed. And all briefing will be done by November 6th. And at that point, the case could be ripe for a decision. The Oklahoma Supreme Court is not like the United States Supreme Court, where they have terms where you know a decision is going to come out after oral argument. They have no set timetable. And that's why, again, we are begging that we have a swift, not just a decision, but a reversal, so we can get back in court. Any other questions?
Last question. At the interim study last week, Human Rights Watch researchers recently testified that reparations, international law requires reparations to be victim-centered, meaning asking the victims how best to remedy themselves. Earlier this year, after Judge Wall dismissed the case in district court, Mayor Biden told Tulsa World that he appreciated the dismissal. Yesterday, he sent out a statement saying that he sends his condolences to the Hughes and Ellis family and is keeping them in his prayers. A lot of people are confused about how we got here and why this is now the only avenue. Between your first filing in 2020 and today, what has prevented Mayor Biden from coming to the table and seeking a negotiated settlement?
Well, I think that's a question for Mayor Bynum, also the chair or president of the Tulsa Chamber, and the other defendants. From our perspective, nothing has prevented any of the perpetrators of the massacre to sit down with the families and say, how can we make this right? And what can we do that what would you like us to do to make this right? So I would say today that I will sit down with Mayor Bynum, I would sit down with Mike Neal or any of the other defendants. I would sit down with them tomorrow to have that discussion, as we have 2 living survivors left. If they want to sit down, I'm available, and I'm open, and my team is open, and the rest of my team, we have a lot of lawyers, rest of my team will be happy to come down if necessary. If they want to just sit down with me and the family members, we're happy to do that. We don't understand why anyone would deny these survivors some justice. I mean, we want descendants to receive justice too, but these survivors, 108 and 109. So we're ready to sit, we're happy to sit down.
What were
Yeah, that was during, thank you, Tiffany. That was during his congressional hearing testimony back on May 19th, 2021, where he told the world, please don't let me die like the other survivors without justice. And that was his plea. And the city has allowed that. The city of Tulsa has allowed that. Tulsa Chamber has allowed that. Tulsa County has allowed that. The state of Oklahoma has allowed that.
Judge Wall is allowed that. You're not saying I'm saying.
I understand.
What was the grounds for dismissal? When they dismissed, what was the grounds?
Of the specific grounds of dismissal with Judge Wall was that she stated we did not provide a specific remedy for the public nuisance. Again, we dispute that, but Oklahoma law does not require it. So for her to use that as this is her words, as her rationale, is unlawful. And that's what we're pointing out to the Oklahoma Supreme Court is why are these survivors been treated differently than any other litigant or plaintiff or person in Oklahoma since 1984? All right. Well, thank you for coming out. You guys continue to pray for Uncle Red's family. Once we receive the funeral information, we will provide that, and we are planning, the family and I, Tiffany, and Crutcher Foundation, Justice Greenwood, and all of our supporters will be having a public memorial for Uncle Red here in Tulsa, and so we'll keep you abreast of that. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Love. Thank you.
We appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your efforts.